یک سال بعد از 7 اکتبر بزرگترین جنایت علیه یهودیان بعد هولوکاست اینجا در اورشلیم در دفتر رئیس مجلس اسرائیل در کنست ساختمان پارلمان این کشور هستم و در دقایق آینده از او درباره سر مار خواهم پرسید. سر ماری که در تهران هست. گفتگوی من رو ببینید در این قسمت ویژه از برنامه حرف آخر با امیر اوهانا رئیس پارلمان اسرائیل. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate you and your team for making this interview happen as soon as possible on the anniversary of the October 7th. Let's start with the first question. You wrote in your Twitter in Farsi, "Say hello to the end, dictator." What does that mean? You are the Speaker of the Parliament of Israel, third highest ranking official, and that has a meaning.
Durud, Purya. It's very good to have you here, and hello to our many viewers. It's very good to have you.
Thank you.
I'm very glad about this question because many of the non-Farsi speakers do not understand what is the true meaning of this sentence. Dictator, bepayan salam kon, meaning say hello to the end, to the dictator. And this has been said many times by the Iranian people towards their oppressor, towards the dictator of Iran. And I believe that the Ayatollah regime of Iran, which we make a clear distinction between them and the Iranian people, made a tremendous mistake.
Okay, let's expand on this tremendous mistake. A few months back, you said during your visit to the US Congress, I quote you, that the Iranian regime must not exit this war the way it entered. What does that mean, Mr. Speaker? You know, what kind of policy we are talking here towards this regime in Iran?
October 7th was, of course, the most devastating day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. But we can talk on and on about Hamas, about the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, about the Hezbollah, about the Houthis, about the Shiite militias. These are all merely proxies of the Ayatollah regime of Iran. So they have found a way to operate and to commit such atrocities as they have and get away with it because it is not them. It is only the proxies. We believe that this method cannot go on.
We know a retaliation is coming from Israeli side by the statements from Israeli officials and all the news and analysis. So there is an attack probably happening very soon in days or weeks against the regime. What is Israel's policy? And what if the regime attacks back again? So what type of escalation we are talking about in the recent weeks and days?
Israel is determined to do whatever it takes to protect the Israeli people. We are traumatized by the events of October 7th, but we don't have the luxury to wallow in grief and pain. We need to fight, which is what we do. We are fighting to return the 101 hostages that are still being held in Gaza by Hamas as we speak. Yeah. We are fighting to return the tens of thousands of displaced civilians, mainly from the northern part of Israel, that cannot live safely in their homes because Hezbollah is targeting them. And we are fighting to bring a better future for the children of the entire region. Because if Hamas stays, if Hezbollah stays, if the Ayatollah regime of Iran stays, the cycle of violence never ends. They have said repeatedly, we intend to destroy the state of Israel.
Yeah.
We cannot allow that. So we will do whatever it takes to secure our civilians.
You talked about the existence of proxies and also the Islamic regime in Iran itself. So we are talking about a regime change policy from Israel?
Well, it is entirely up to the Iranian people who will rule the Iranian people.
But Israel will support regime change?
Israel supports, of course, the free people of Iran to gain back their freedom from the Ayatollah regime.
Okay.
We support that. We say it openly.
Okay.
We call for the Iranian people, stand up. Stand up for your rights, stand up for your freedom. You can do better. You can do better for yourselves, and you can do better with the entire world.
We talk about a common enemy here.
Yes.
The enemy of the Iranian people and also the enemy of the Israeli people and Israel, which is the Islamic regime in Iran.
The head of the snake.
Head of the snake, as we call. Israel's goals are set and clear in this war against the head of the snake. I mean, peace, stability, and security of the region, and accordingly for Israel. Iranians have a goal as well. You know, getting rid of this regime.
Freedom.
And gain
Liberty.
freedom, liberty, democracy. How Israel can help Iranian people in this path?
Well,
I'm not saying you need to do that for us. The change needs to come from within. That's
Absolutely.
actually something I
Absolutely.
believe. I'm sure you believe that as
Absolutely.
well. How Israel can support this cause?
Well, I believe that in the past year, maybe even a few years, the Ayatollah regime got some very serious blows. And they will continue to get very serious blows. And I hope it will help the Iranian free people to get rid of them. We want to get rid of them, but as you said, and you are absolutely right, it is up to the Iranian people to decide who gets to rule, who gets to be in power. As long as the Ayatollah regime of Iran stays, they shall remain our target. And, as you said, even the target of the Iranian people.
As they are.
It's a common enemy.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, it's a very good opportunity to have you in this interview, and probably I can get this assurance from you for the audience and all the Iranians watching this interview. There is a big question mark. You know, probably we talked about that a few times. Iranians are the biggest pro-Israel society in the region. And what Iranians are demanding right now, I'm in touch with many people, and also we can see the reactions in social media and across the country, that there are enough targets in Iran which harm the regime and not the civilians. Will Israel consider this while they're planning any kind of retaliation and attack against the regime inside Iranian soil?
I'm certain, absolutely certain, that all the options are being taken under considerations. As I told you, we do not target Iranian civilians, and we will do whatever needs to be done to secure our civilians.
Mr. Speaker, Israel is in close contact with the United States, coordinating this coming attack against the regime inside Iranian soil. I personally think Americans do not have a clear understanding about what is happening on the ground in the Middle East, especially in the last decade, probably. What do you think of the U.S. policy towards the Iranian regime and the threat they pose against the Iranian people and also against the stability and safety of the region? Especially, we had some comments from, President Biden in recent days that they have actually some considerations about what the targets are and how Israel should conduct this attack.
This war may seem to some as a local conflict. We see it very differently. In our region, Israel stands for something. Israel represents something. This something is the free world, which America leads. And this is what Hamas was after, and this is what the Ayatollah regime of Iran was after. The Western free world, the democracies. This is what we stand for. And if, God forbid, Israel loses this war, and you know what, let me go even further. If Israel vaporizes, is there anyone that thinks that now it's over? Now this enemy of freedom, this enemy of peace, will say, I've had enough? Of course not. This is the clash of civilizations, as Samuel Huntington referred to many years ago. This is what we are experiencing. And I believe that not only America, but the entire free world should stand by our side. And I'm very happy to see that America does it. From time to time, we have disagreements, as you have amongst friends. This is a common thing. But on the basic issue, we are on the same page. America stands by Israel, and many other Western countries stand by Israel.
Okay, let me ask my question this way. If America tries to stop you from doing something that is within your national interest, will you do it on your own? It has happened in the past.
Israel is a sovereign country, and our number one commitment is to secure the lives of our civilians. And we will do whatever it takes to make sure that the lives of our civilians are protected.
How do you see international support in this war in the past year? We saw Emmanuel Macron's comments on Saturday that he asked for an arms embargo on Israel.
This is very unfortunate, and I personally am disappointed because I had a meeting with President Macron just a few months ago, and we discussed those issues. And I specifically told him, look, when Yahya Sinwar and Hassan Nasrallah, he was still alive back then, and the enemies of peace, not only of Israel, of peace, because let me remind our viewers that only a few years ago, I was a minister in the government that signed the Abraham Accords, expanding the circle of peace between Israel and more Muslim Arab countries. And this is why I say the enemies of peace. When they hear other leaders saying we should embargo Israel, we need to demand a ceasefire before we eradicate Hamas, before we eradicate the terror organizations, before we return our hostages, they are empowered by those statements. What Yahya Sinwar says, all I need to do is just to hang on. The world will be used as our Iron Dome. The world will stop Israel. This means that the cycle of violence doesn't stop. We are basically in the front line confronting terrorism, not only for us, but for the Western world. What we should see more is leaders standing by our side, like President Milei of Argentina.
He's a great guy.
Yes, he is, absolutely. I just met him 2 weeks ago. And other leaders that stand by Israel in its fight against terrorism, against the radical forces of darkness in our region. And we will continue to do our job even if we hear statements coming from these leaders or other leaders, because we believe this is the only path to achieve peace and stability.
As the Prime Minister says, total victory. Let's talk about international bodies and organizations like the United Nations. There was a news about travel ban on
Why wasting our time?
Yeah. So I call them the budget consumers, like the International Criminal Court of Justice and then like United Nations. How do you see these organizations' roles in these days? You know, they have become, I think, a spokesperson of some certain groups and like, you know, some certain ideologies.
Yes, of course. I was in the United States a few months ago, and I had great meetings with my counterpart, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the American House of Representatives, and other political figures. And then I spent a few days in New York. So I was supposed to meet Secretary Guterres. And then a day before the meeting, he said once again, Israel is committing war crimes and it should stop, and so on. I have canceled this meeting because there are certain cases, not many cases, that I call lost causes. Mm-hmm. He's a lost cause. He, and I absolutely support the decision of the Foreign Minister of Israel, he fails to actually do his job, to restore peace, to fight the forces of darkness and radicalism. We didn't start this war. On October 6th, children were sleeping in their beds peacefully in Gaza. We didn't start this war. We didn't seek to fight. But of course, on October 7th, 6:29 a.m., Hamas launched a coordinated attack that killed, murdered, burned, raped 1,200 of our civilians, kidnapped 251. And now it is time to fight our enemies. Those who seek peace should be prepared for war. It's an old saying that we have fulfilled this time. We want peace. We are willing to reach out for peace as we have proven before. But to do that, we need to take out the radicals and the extremists.
And the terrorists, yeah. This interview is being aired on October 7th. First of all, any comments on this? The biggest massacre against the Jews after Holocaust.
Well, it is devastating. And for many of us, it is probably the saddest day in our lives. As I said earlier, we don't have the luxury to wallow in grief and pain because we need to fight, which is what we do. And we are creating a new reality in the region. The days that our enemies were successful threatening us are over. We are fighting, and we are fighting hard. Hamas sees it, Hezbollah sees it, and I hope that everyone in the region understands that those who will go in the path of Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, will go in his path.
Do you see the total victory close? This is the goal you set for your war.
Yes, of course. It takes time. It takes time. We need to be able to return our hostages. We need to be able to return our tens of thousands of displaced civilians, and to be sure that they do not only live in feeling safe, but they are truly safe. So Hezbollah is getting very serious blows. It will continue to get those blows until we can say we can secure the lives of our civilians. How long will it take? I cannot say a specific date. I can tell you we'll continue as long as it takes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's talk about a couple of questions which are viral in social media these days. So we see a series of eliminations in Lebanon specifically, and also Hamas leaders and stuff, but I'm talking specifically about Hezbollah leaders. So I think the last one didn't last 6 days as the leader of Hezbollah. What is your message to the next Secretary General of Hezbollah?
In this day and age, who wants the job?
Yeah, actually, Iranians say probably Khamenei wants the job in Lebanon.
It's quite risky.
Yeah, your tweet that you said, dictators say hello to the end.
Yes.
How did you feel about the reactions from Iranians?
Well, I have gotten many reactions, and many of them were very supportive.
Yeah.
Many of the Iranian people want to get rid of the Ayatollah regime, of their oppressors. And I believe that it's only a matter of time. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
We talked about free Iran, Mr. Speaker. How do you see Iran and Israel relations when this regime falls?
This is a new year for us. This is the new Hebrew year. Actually, it's my first interview this year. I have hope and I have a dream that the relations between the Iranian people, the great Iranian people, and the great Israeli people will go back to be as they were before. We can do that. My cousin used to work in Iran before the 1979 revolution.
As a diplomat, or?
He was not in the Mossad. He helped to build bridges and roads and construction. Yeah. And infrastructure.
I think there are more Mossad agents right now in the regime than before the revolution.
Anyway, many Israelis used to work in Iran and had great relations with the Iranians. Many Israelis were born and raised in Iran and currently live here in Israel. They would wish to visit their towns, their cities, their villages. I know great Iranian people, You are one of them, of course.
Thank you so much.
And I wish that the relations would go back to what they were before.
Sure.
I believe we can do that. I believe that the Iranian people, with very rich history and great brains and potential, you know, you are one of the most educated societies on the planet, and you have great natural resources. You are one of the greatest energy resources countries. I believe that the Iranian people cares more about Iran than they do about Hezbollah, about Hamas, about spreading terrorism and death and instability in our region. My vision is a vision of peace. We can call it the Cyrus Accords, in the name of Cyrus, that 3,000 years ago gave the Jewish people the freedom, the liberty to live their lives the way they wanted to live it.
And rebuild their temple.
And rebuild their temple. And this is why I believe we should commemorate Cyrus and honor him with these accords. But of course, first we have to take out the enemies of peace, the Ayatollah regime of Iran. And this will benefit not only the Iranian people, but the entire region that will prosper from this event.
Two last questions, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for your time. The regime's supreme leader had a speech on Friday, and he said Israel will be destroyed very soon. What is your message to him and the rest of the leaders in Iran through this camera?
Dictator, be payan, salam kon.
And my last question, you can talk again directly to the Iranian people. What is your message to them who are fighting this regime and who have a common enemy with you, which is the Islamic regime in Iran?
Absolutely. Stay strong, stay brave, be ready to make Iran great again. To Tehran, mi bina metun.
Your Farsi is very good. Thank you for your time.
Merci, Purya. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.